Hello again, everyone. So last time we discussed functions and we discussed different data types than the strings that the functions were taken. We saw that in the previous two lessons that we had a function that accepts um, what's it called accepts a string, and it was doing greeting for a name. And I'm not gonna go over the exact details that we've done because it will be considered redundant. And then I just want to show you what we did earlier, like that. So we saw functions that accept parameters of type string, and we also saw a function that calculate, for instance, the total of a price, and the function was accepting two different data types. One of them was a fraction or a float, and another one was an integer, which was the quantity here, like that. And we ended up um, showing how we can return a value from a total, like that, total. We would grab the price, and then multiplied it by the quantity, like this, and then we returned the total, like that. So these are very basic and simple functions, but they are extremely useful when you implement them, and then you end up making them much more complex. What I actually meant is extremely useful. I mean, these kind of functions that accept parameters and return data types. Now we saw a function that accepts string, another function that accept numbers, and these numbers are floats, and what's it called? An integer. Is there another function that can accept a combination of these? Yeah. So let me show you. And this is the scope of our lecture today. I just want to show you different types of functions, different types of data types, different types of return types, and we're going to continue to work with functions because they are the building block of anything computationally useful. Any application programmable interface that is known to be called API, you will hear that a lot in the industry, is essentially functions. So anything that you need to make any task or any job or any problem that you need to solve, you're going to package it in a way that looks like a function that accepts some parameters and that will return some value of a sort. So now let me show you. Suppose you want to, again, to the grocery store, and you want to keep track of the total, and you want to do the taxes for the item. So let's just say calculate calc total. So let me show you now. I want to do something really special here. I want to be able to say um, well, let's do the first things that we do first. We do the price and we do the total, like that. But I also want to be sure that maybe I want to say what item that I'm actually working with, right? I want to add the description of that item. I want to say I'm buying French fries, I'm buying potato chips, I am buying the medley mix, I'm buying these dates, I'm buying the Irish tea. Anything that you want to buy from the store, you want to describe it, you want to have the price, and you want to talk about. Sorry, this is not the total. This is indeed the quantity, like that. And I also want to be sure to say, maybe if I am in a state and I'm gonna be paying taxes, maybe I need to also specify the state as well. So this is my state, and based on what state that I'm in, I want to apply the state tax on the total price. So let me show you the things that we've done first. Well, we know how to calculate the total, so let's call this function here because again, I want to show you that this is a building block that we created. Why don't we just use it? Let's use it right now. So we're gonna calculate the total that we call this that was before tax, total before tax, like that. So I'm gonna bring this here and here like this, and I want to say here is the price and here's the quantity for me, and this is gonna give me the total before, like that. So now I also want to say, well, if I am in the state of Vermont, um, if I am in the state of Vermont, and if this equals the state two-letter code in the state of Vermont, I would like to, and this has to be a condition, if the state is in the state of Vermont, say the tax rate, um, so rate, that would be tax rate, would be, say, I don't know, the sales tax for things, say 10%. And I also want to say if else, and that would be LF like that, which means else if the state is, say, Massachusetts. Oops. Then the tax rate here, tax rate will probably be a little bit higher, because you understand what people say about how high the cost of living in Massachusetts. So let's just make it 15%. And I also want to say, I also want to make sure that I want to declare this earlier with a 0 first, because I want to make it outside the scope here so it can be accessible. And I want to make the state tax 0, and then I will initialize it. And then suppose we're just interested in these two states, and any other state will have a tax rate of a fixed amount. We're being hypothetical here. We're not being exactly accurate. So why this is else if, why this is an issue here? Oh yes, because it says stat, not state. Very good. Seems like these guys have been very helpful so far. So okay, now I really want to be sure that to apply the tax rate here against the total of the items. So the total times the tax rate, this is going to give me what? This is going to give me the price. This is going to give me the actual value of the taxes, right? The sales tax, actual tax. So now what I need to do is to take the total before, and then I'm going to add. We always have to pay more money because we have to pay the taxes. So that's why we have to add it here. And this is going to be the total after tax, like that. So the total after tax is what exactly that I am interested in. Then I'm going to return it. So I will show you now, if we actually call these guys, we will be able to get the kind of result that we're looking for. Okay, so I'm gonna do the calc total here like this. I'm gonna call the function. So right now what I'm doing is calling the function. I'm gonna call it, so this is basically to test implementation. Testing the implementation means testing the actual content of the function here. So now the function accepts an item. So what item would we, I don't know, maybe honey. Just bought honey from the store. And say the price is, I don't know, $5. Let's just make the numbers so easy we can validate the amount of things that we're doing. So we say I bought 10 of those. Why not? And I want to enter the state. So the state here, I'm gonna test as the state of Vermont, and I'm going to get back the total total after tax, like that. So now getting the total after tax, if I don't print it, nothing's gonna happen. So I'm just going to do the total after tax. So now we know that 5 times 10 is 50, and then that would be $50, right? And then 10% of 50 is, sorry, 10%. This is 10% tax of $50 is $5. So we should probably expect 55, because we are going to add 5 to the amount of 50. So this is going to give us 55 if we've done everything right. So this is total after tax, like that. And then I really don't need a plus sign here. What I need is a comma, because the print function takes multiple parameters or multiple arguments, and all of those guys have to be separated by a comma. That's why we needed a comma here. So I'm just gonna run this. So it is indeed 55. This is very good. So now I'm going to do another state. So this is calling the function for the state of Vermont. Here, let's call the function. Call the function for the calling the function for the state of Massachusetts. Right. So suppose now I want the same amount, the same. Suppose I bought the same items and the same everything, but in the state of Massachusetts. How much money we're gonna pay? Well, 15%. What is 15% out of 50? Well, we know that 15% of 100 is $15. So 15% over 50 is 7.5. So we should have 57.5, like that, if we are correct. So we're gonna have another print statement here. So that is indeed 57.5, like I exactly said that. Now suppose I want to test in the honey for another state, that is, say, the state of Arizona. And so now the tax rate should be 12%. So that is going to be a number between 55 and 57, because we know that this is 10%, and we know that this is 57%. So we need to probably have to add another $1.25. So that would be 56.25. Let's try and see if I got this right. $56. Okay. All right. I don't know. We should probably, I don't know. It doesn't matter. Okay. So very good. Now at least we know that our if statements are working, because the first one was evaluated according to a 10%. So this is indeed correct, because now I know for sure that when I passed 10%, I passed it, and it was calculated according to the state of Vermont. So I'm good. And the second time, when I entered the Massachusetts state here, I was able to calculate the 15% tax, and I got the exact results. And the else statement here seemed like it was actually any state that if I do this for another state, I will be getting the same value as the state of Massachusetts. Sorry, the state of Arizona, because it's different from Massachusetts and Vermont. So I'm gonna get this total total after tax. I'm gonna get that twice. One for the state of Arizona and one for the state of Connecticut. Okay, so I want to show you something. As you can see here, we entered the item description, and we really did not use it. But what is also really we could basically say the item is this, and total for the item we could pass the item here like this. And the item will probably would be honey in this case, and so on. But we also we really don't know. We have no idea. We have no idea the number that we're working with here, according to what state. Suppose, well, you can see it because you can actually, you can see it here in in the test case. This is your test case here. You can definitely see what state you are processing. But suppose you work with a very large database, and this large database comes from different transactions. Some of them are in one state, some of them in another state, and you cannot see that. You cannot see that visually. So is there a way that you can basically return the taxes and also return the actual state where the taxes were computed? What I mean the taxes here, I mean the total price after tax. So actually, this is something that Python offers us really nicely here. Instead of returning just the total after tax, we can actually also, believe it or not, we can return the state like this, and we can also return the tax. If we want to return more than one value, okay, if you want to return, right now we only return one value. If you want to return more than one value, then you're gonna have to pass him as comma separated variables like that. So if we actually do this, now we can have a state here like this, because now the function is returning two different types, right? And I am going to pass. So now when I call the function here, because this is the function called calc total, so when I call this function, I'm expected to be getting two different types of values. So I'm gonna make sure that the first value here will be accommodating the state, because it's a state value, it's a string, and this guy here, it has to be a variable that I don't want to call it like the state. If I reverse the order here and say this is the state and this is the total, and the function returns this in this order, then I'm gonna be the values will not make sense according to the variable names, and I'm gonna show you. So suppose I do the tax and the state in this order here, like this, and I will show you why the order matters. And then this guy here, like this, state. So now if I print the state and the total price, state like that, you will see that the order will make a difference. Okay, let's run this. We're gonna run 4 different cases here. Each one of them is from a different state. Some of them follow the same pattern of how we returned the values, and some of them does the opposite, reverse these values. So let's see what values that will make sense and what values that will not make sense after we print. So now take a look at this. The first one, it says 55, because now I'm printing the total and then I'm printing the tax. That's the state. So it's the total here correctly, and then the second one is the state. Now take a look at this one. This one, even though I'm supposed to be printing here the tax, it's actually printing the state code. And I will prove to you, if I remove this like this, and if I also remove this one, because those are the guys that reverse the pattern of the return statements. So I'm gonna show you here. I'm supposed to be receiving, as you can see, I'm supposed to be getting the total tax and all the print statements. Some of them is actually giving me the state code as opposed to the total tax. So that is because whatever variable, it doesn't matter what you call it. If you call this chicken head, I don't know, it doesn't matter. It wouldn't really matter. What will matter is the order that you have here. That is your state. So if you put a name here, so the first value here is bound already to the first value return, and the second one you pass here is the second value that is bound to the second value that you pass in the return value. So if you reverse the order here, Python is not gonna care. It's still gonna assign the state to the total tax, and still gonna assign Yes, so and this is the wrong one. Still gonna assign the state value to the total tax, and still gonna assign the actual total price after tax to the state value. So this is gonna look very confusing to you. So now let me, if we reverse this, now if we reverse these guys, now we have to fix them. Every one of those guys should have a state first, like that, because that variable here is bound to the first type that you're returning, the first variable that you return. And remember, this variable here is being passed by this variable, by this parameter or argument here, and this guy gets its value from the actual value here. So let me make sure that we get these guys correct. State, like that. Now if I, doesn't matter, now I'm only gonna be printing the actual taxes, and some of them will print the both of values, but none of this is gonna be incorrect anymore because we fixed it. Now as you can see, the first value is actually the total after tax, and the second value, if we print it, it prints correctly. Now let me show you. If we print the state here, and we print the state here too, is going to print the value, the total value, and the state code. Like that. So now as you can see, it looks really nice. It looks really great. And then you can also, if you want to return more than one value, say you want to return the item, why not? If you want to say what item that you're working with, but remember, you have to follow the same. So you have to follow the same pattern here. If this is returning, three variables, you have to pass three variables, and you have to pass them in the same order. Name your variables in a way that makes sense with these variable names. So if you call this total before, and it's supposed to be the item description, you have nobody to blame except yourself, because whatever you call it, it wouldn't matter. Python is not going to understand. The only thing that is going to do is going to bind the item here with whatever variable you call here. Say you call this state before, it wouldn't matter. Still gonna, this variable here is going to be populated by the item name, and I'm gonna prove it to you. Okay, but let me make them all uniform so we can see how they all work, because I don't want to mess it up, because definitely the other guys will be messed up if I, item, I'm supposed to be here, but for some reason it's not working. Okay, so now as you can see, I'm calling one of them state before, and everybody else is called item. And if I want to print the item here, item like that, doesn't matter the order in the print statement, it wouldn't matter. You can put it at the front, you can put it in the back. What matters is you mimic this pattern here with the pattern that you get back, the parameters from the function. So now I'm going to add another third item here, and then also this is another, guess what, here we don't have, if I do this, the word item here, I don't have an item because I actually called it state before, and it wouldn't really matter what I call. This is still gonna give me, this is still gonna be bound by the name honey here, because that is the item. This is supposed to be the item, even though I totally did a wonderful job, not really, a horrible job naming this variable. So let me run this one more time. And as you can see, every one of them printed the item description, even though the one that you called state before. But if you fix it, it will make a lot of sense, like that. So now, as you can see, a function here that we've written, that it has taken 4 different types of parameters. 2 of them are strings, the item and the state. One of them is a float data type. One of them is an integer data type. And we were able to return more than one value. First of all, the first version, we returned one value. The second one, we returned the second. The third one, we returned a third. Okay, so suppose that I only returned one value here. So I'm gonna call this an item, but I only grabbed, and I'm gonna call this item details like that. But I only grabbed. Wait just a minute. Sorry. Item details like that, and I'm going to. So my function returned. Um, my function returned three different things. However, I am only getting back from the function just a single variable. And now these guys are upset. Okay, let's make them happy. How do I get three different data types? How do I get three different variables out of this? I think if we do this correctly, if I get this item detail like that, and then I pass indices, so the index here will be bound to the first element, which is going to be the item description. The second one is going to be the state. The second one is at index 1, and the third one is at index 2. Now those guys are upset, so I'm gonna keep them upset, and I'm only gonna print these guys and see if I did this right and what is it that we're getting. I'm gonna run. It's basically saying that returned where. So it returned three different things. It returned the item, because we returned the item, right? And it returned the state, which is the state of Vermont. Very good. And also returned the last thing, which is the actual value after tax. So it returned three different pieces of information, even though we returned a variable. So if I do the same thing here, and we'll uncomment this guy, and I might also want to cheat here as well. So I'm going to take the same print statement, and I'm going to replicate it over and over and over. So I can see how the test cases are working. So now we're going to see four different print statements. So we only have one here, but when I run this one more time, I'm going to have four of those. Each one of them will be instantiated by the actual values that we're passing from the parameters before. What is this? This doesn't look good. Okay, this is better. So now if I run this like that, as you can see, we got the item, because here the function is returning an item. We got the state as a second one, and we actually, the third one, we got the total after tax. So even though we returned three different values, we actually we received them back from the function when we called it as a single element, and from that single element we started to index, say, the element at index 0, the element at index 1, the element at index 2, and then we were able to get all the different pieces of information that we wanted to get out of one specific item that has three different components. This actually sets the stage for a very interesting and a very significant topic of our learning journey and delving into the Python programming, and it's actually called data structures. So next time I am going to show you how we can use variables that are not only that can hold more than one value, like we saw here. We saw here that this guy is holding more than one value. Let me before we conclude, why don't we just print the type of this variable like that for kicks, just for kicks, and see what sort of type this variable is going to give us. It is a tuple. This is exactly the kind of data type that I am planning on covering for you next time. So let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if you have any comments. And next time we're going to talk about tuples. And thanks for watching.